In the industrial heart of Buffalo, New York, on August 25, 1919, a boy named Matthew Louis Urbinowitz was born to Stanley and Helen Urbinowitz. His father was a hard-working Polish immigrant and plumbing contractor. His mother, a native of Depew, New York. Growing up at 1153 Broadway with his brothers Stanley, Arthur, and Eugene, Matt lived a modest, disciplined childhood grounded in faith and hard work. He attended East High School, graduating in 1937, and soon entered Cornell University, where he majored in history and government. At Cornell, Urban proved himself a leader. He joined the Reserve Officers Training Corps, ROTC, ran track, boxed competitively, and joined the Kappa Delta Rho fraternity. By 1941, he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree, using the shortened name Matty L. Urbinowitz, a name that would soon appear in the U.S. Army records. Just weeks before America's entry into World War II, Matt Urban was commissioned as a second lieutenant of infantry. He entered active duty on July 2, 1941, at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, assigned to D Company, 2nd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment, 9th Infantry Division, known as the Go Devils, into war, North Africa and Sicily. Urban's baptism of fire came on November 8, 1942, during the Allied invasion of North Africa. He led his platoon ashore under heavy German fire, showing the fearlessness that would define his military career. In Tunisia, he was first wounded by grenade shrapnel but refused evacuation, continuing to lead combat patrols. His courage earned him his first Silver Star. During the Tunisian campaign, Urban's leadership saved countless lives. In one counterattack, as his men were forced back, Urban held his ground alone, killed a German soldier in hand-to-hand combat, seized his weapon, and turned it on the advancing enemy, halting their charge. In 1943, the 60th Infantry was sent to Sicily, arriving under heavy air raids. When a German dive bomber attacked their ship, Urban manned an anti-aircraft gun, directing fire that brought down the enemy plane. His battalion was then assigned a daring mission to cross the central Sicilian mountains undetected, flanking the German defenses at Troina. Urban's leadership guided thousands of troops and pack mules through treacherous night terrain, forcing the Germans to retreat. For his gallantry, he received another Silver Star before his division was recalled to England to prepare for the next major campaign, Normandy and France. On June 11, 1944, 5 days after D-Day, Matt and his men landed on Utah Beach, near Renouf, under intense fire. He seized a bazooka after its operator was killed, crawled through the hedgerows, and destroyed 2 advancing German tanks, turning the tide of battle. A day later, he was wounded in the leg by tank shrapnel, yet continued commanding his men from a stretcher. Soon after, another wound to his arm sent him to England for surgery. But when Urban learned that his battalion was suffering heavy losses in the hedgerows of France, he escaped the hospital, trained a replacement group of soldiers, and returned to the front lines on his own, limping and using a makeshift cane. On July 25, 1944, during the Battle of Saint-Lô, Urban performed one of the most daring acts of his career. Under relentless enemy fire, he climbed aboard a disabled Sherman tank, manned its machine gun, and led a charge that broke through German lines. His actions rallied the entire 2nd Battalion and saved countless lives. Witnesses later said, when Urban moved forward, the U.S. Army moved forward. Within weeks, Urban was wounded again by shell fragments to his chest, but stayed with his men. When his commanding officer, Major Wolfe, was killed in action, Urban, at just 24 years old, took command of the battalion. Belgium and the final battle. In September 1944, Urban's unit was ordered to attack Philippeville, Belgium, a heavily defended German position. While leading the assault, he charged toward a machine gun nest and was shot through the neck. The wound permanently damaged his voice and nearly ended his life. His men carried him from the battlefield as doctors performed an emergency tracheotomy and a chaplain administered last rites, believing
knowing he would not survive. Yet once again, Matt Urban defied death. He was promoted to major while recovering, but the injuries left him unable to speak for months. Despite this, Urban secretly rejoined his battalion at Elsenborn, Germany, requesting a combat role in writing. Although his request was denied, he remained with his men until the battalion was withdrawn. A life of service. Medically retired in 1946 as a lieutenant colonel, Matt Urban transitioned to civilian life. He worked as a recreation director in Port Huron and Monroe, Michigan, where he coached youth sports and trained future Golden Gloves champions. He also played a key role on the Michigan Olympic Boxing Committee and was among those who trained a young Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, during Olympic tryouts. Later, as director of recreation in Holland, Michigan, Urban organized youth camps and programs for underprivileged children. His dedication to service extended beyond the battlefield. As a coach, mentor, and community leader, in 1979, more than 3 decades after World War II, a disabled American veterans representative uncovered a lost Medal of Honor recommendation written by Major Wolfe and Sergeant Earl Evans in 1944. The U.S. Army reviewed the documents and approved the award. On July 19, 1980, President Jimmy Carter presented the Medal of Honor to Matt Urban at the White House, calling him the greatest soldier in American history. The day before, he had received the Legion of Merit, a Bronze Star with V device, and his 7th Purple Heart. At the French Embassy, he was also presented with the Croix de Guerre, originally signed by Charles de Gaulle in 1944. Legacy. Matt Urban passed away on March 4, 1995, in Holland, Michigan, at the age of 75. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, honored as one of America's most decorated soldiers. Throughout his military career, he received 14 major combat decorations, including the Medal of Honor, 2 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Stars, the Legion of Merit, and 7 Purple Hearts. His life was one of extraordinary courage and selfless devotion. Matt Urban never sought recognition. He simply led, fought, and endured. His story remains a timeless reminder of the resilience and sacrifice that define the true spirit of a soldier.